life.
What do you think about like setting an intention for the show?
Abso-fucking-lutely. Amen.
Okay.
Let's start. Let's begin.
Okay. So, an intention that I have is that that my words are clear and guided by my highest self, and that we are sharing things that are going to be useful for us and for other people.
Can I say hallelujah?
Yeah.
No, I think that's great. Oh, I'm about to fall out my chair. Oh my God. Woo. That one little bowl is just like, woo. That's all I needed. Well, I think that's beautiful. Those are beautiful words. And I think that's great, making sure that the energy is together and stuff like that, because it's really easy to forget all of that.
Yeah.
And
right into it.
Say that again.
Just by like jumping right into stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, this is season 5 of Center of the Sun. You are season 5, AmariYah. AmariYah Israel is season 5 of Center of the Sun podcast. And I intentionally did not write an intro. So normally I write a whole big shebang with music and da-da-da. But I wanted to switch it up because, the intention, just like you said, is clarity and like, making sure that we are helping people in the correct way. So I think that all the bells and whistles are not necessary with the partner show, or co-hosted show, co-anchored show.
Co-anchored.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you so much. So I guess for the audience, this is AmariYah Israel. Hey! Hey! Wow. And AmariYah is a new co-host of Center of the Sun. And this is season 5, episode 1. And today we're just introducing AmariYah. That's all we're doing. And we're diving into the notes that some of the stuff that you have specific. And because you are a powerful energy healer, we're going to focus on introducing you today and making sure that the Center of the Sun family, I don't even have a name, the Center of the Sunny D's, I don't but I just wanted to spend the next hour or so just introducing you and talking to you and welcoming you to the show. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Sounds good.
All right. So like I've said on other episodes, every single person in this reality period, every organism, everything, they all experience reality in their own separate way. And I think it's very interesting to realize that, because every single person is essentially searching for the most authentic parts of their like psyche and their soul. And it may not be obvious all the time, but every single person on this planet has a purpose, and everyone's on their stage of personal development. So there are specific reasons why people get up every single day and do what they do. Some people get up and spread negativity and spread destruction and confusion and all that kind of stuff. And other people try to get their shit together or try the best. And it is weird. The flipping of the screen is weird, because when I go over here, it's over here. But yeah, I'm a little confused. But I wish I could flip it, but I can't. I can flip it to the better camera, and the quality's trash too. Wow, look at that. Well, we're probably just going to use the audio. But AmariYah,
yeah, it's Mercury.
say that again.
It's Mercury retrograde, so communications, technology, and things are just like not working at the optimal level right now.
Exactly. And you you work with a lot of energy. You're an energy healer. Can you kind of explain just on a very superficial, like who you are and what organization you're from?
Yeah, for sure. So my name's AmariYah, and I use she, her, and they, them pronouns. And I founded a company called Fluid Journey. And my idea behind having this opportunity for connection is to introduce people to energy healing, which is basically like an intention to transfer energy from my energetic field to another person to promote their own self healing. Yeah. So there's a little bit about that.
Right. And that's great. Yeah. And we've been talking about energy healing in the Bible. And so I think that's very interesting how it's,
Right.
and we have been friends for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's 13 years or something.
yeah, I haven't been counting, but but yeah, it's I remember, do you remember how we met?
We used to live across from each other in the university apartments.
Yeah. And I used to ask to come over.
Yeah, to hang out and you know
Because
keep
y'all
our.
so much fun.
Thank you. Thanks. We tried to have fun. You made it more fun though. I
Oh,
feel like our energy together definitely made it a fun experience.
I agree. And that energy has kept going to this day, which is kind of like not ironic, but it's like fast forward, it's like, wow, this stuff, there might be something to the energy thing.
Hmm.
Can you kind of explain where you come from and how you got on this entire path?
Yeah, for sure. So there are quite a few entry points, I would say. For me, the most recent entry point being that I quit my job in higher education. I was working in student affairs, advising students of color and LGBTQ students on, social life, academic life, and just helping them make their college experience better all around. And um, that was like really fulfilling and great. And I noticed that the parts that I loved the most about my job were like guiding people and coaching them and really being a part of their journey. And so when I moved to Columbus, Ohio with my partner, we both were kind of looking for opportunities to expand. And I always had in the back of my head that I would be doing healing work full time. So I had this opportunity to incubate because of COVID and really look myself in the mirror and ask about what I want to do with this business that I've been kind of sitting on the license of for 2 years. And that's more of the like logistics part of it. The more vulnerable part is I needed something new. I felt like I didn't feel like grounded in the the bureaucracy of working at a university. I always just kind of wanted to like be my own boss and like really be intentional about how I set up my life. And in and of itself, I feel like that's healing. That's part of the healing that I'm doing for myself and also bringing other people into.
That's great. You said that you work with LGBT folks, but if I remember, like you were like the boss of the department or something, weren't you? Or close to it?
So I for a while was the director. I was the acting director, and after that period of time, I became the assistant director. So yeah, I was one of the people who ran the space. Yeah.
Which is why all the bureaucracy, yeah.
Yeah, because you have to be appealing to administrators, and then you have to also like meet students where they are, and you're kind of a part of the system that they are like being oppressed by. So it's like,
Come on, somebody.
yeah. So I'm like, how do I give up this power in order to give them what they need, like get them access to what they need, and still like um, get things done on the administrative side and be a human and like love who I am and what I'm doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So you felt like, was it a feeling like when you like, how did you realize that you were that university, like a big academic institution was not for you? Like, was it a feeling or was it like you were just tired or what was that? What?
I definitely felt burnt out by the environment. Yeah, it was more of a feeling of like, yeah, I don't know how much longer I can do this. This is a lot of
Right.
pressure. Um, yeah, and I was also doing volunteering on the side. I worked with a organization called the Lake Effect Free Alternative Health Clinic for 2 years, and we provided free energy healing, Reiki, tarot, and herbal consultations to people in the community. So once a month, I was part of that clinic, and it was really nice to see like people come back month to month and get to know everyone. And so I was kind of having this experience of like, oh, I would really like to do this more. I really want to become an herbalist because I see these two herbalists that I'm working with and like what they do and how impactful that is.
Well, the feelings I talk a lot about feelings, and I really believe your feelings and your emotions are your spirit. Like that is like the manifestation of your soul. That's how your soul speaks. Can you speak about the spiritual journey? The 2 years held the license. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I got my license, my business license in 2018, and I I think that was 2 years after I got my Reiki certification, and I just like wanted to have it just in case. I've gotten quite a few readings over the last 2 years from spiritualists, and they were like, this is something that's going to happen. You're meant to be a healer. It's in your aura. It's your like ancestors or spirits are calling back to you and they want you back. And I wasn't sure if like the business aspect of it was going to be how it manifested, and it just happened to be that that's the case. But either way, I feel like I'm going to be immersed in a spiritual journey, um, whether or not I have a business license.
Exactly. And I remember back in college. Excuse me. I remember back in college, we had a house. We lived together. We lived together sophomore year. We lived across the hall sophomore year of college. Then we lived together junior and senior year of college. But I remember always talking about your family because you have such an interesting upbringing, and not your immediate family, but you oddly, not while we were in college, but you always talked about your immediate family in college. But then after college, I got to meet your granny.
Yeah.
And you always talked about how influential your granny was to you. What was that like as a kid?
When I was little, I remember my granny like always making teas from different barks and having them under the bathroom sink. And I at first didn't know what they were for. And it was just like, why are all these like
Why are the pine cones under the counter, Granny?
yeah, why are all these things under the sink? And then I came to realize that she wanted us to use them when we were sick, or she had different things that were herself that she was for herself that she was treating illnesses or wounds, and that was always really interesting to me. And she always had like just this air about her, like her presence is enough. She is like a very calming person. She can be quiet, and she's also like very organized. So she like taught me how to bake, and she taught me how to like um just like keep a calendar and like schedule in fun things and have things to look forward to, which is part of my self-care now. Like I always like to have something to look forward to. And yeah, so I always really appreciate that connection to her. And she's a person that when I get readings, even though she's still alive, like she shows up spiritually, which is not something I've really heard about before, but she does.
Well, before we get on that part, I want to know about the bark tea. What do you mean? What's in it?
So they were just like herbal decoctions, which is an infused water or like tea. So she had golden seal, white oak bark.
Golden seal, what's that?
Golden seal. It's a plant.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a plant. And these are all plants.
Okay.
White oak bark, which is like the white bark of a white oak tree.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah. And there was another one, I just forgot it. Golden seal, white oak bark.
Like slippery. Yeah. I think you said something about like a slippery elm or something like that.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Slippery and like elm. Other stuff, like household stuff, like Sprite or Sierra Mist, or what else did they put in there?
7-Up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So a bunch of different stuff. So it wasn't only plants; it was like other useful things.
Yeah, other things. So we would always get vegetable soup and 7-Up whenever we were sick. Of course, Vicks Vapor Rub, which I know lots of Black folks and people of color use in their families.
Right. That's
for everything.
Right. Well, that's awesome. So your granny's still alive?
She's still alive, yeah.
Yeah. The dream, she shows up in your dreams. That's interesting.
Yeah, she shows up in dreams that I have. So when I was younger, she taught me how to interpret my dreams. And I would go and ask her about, like, what was this dream about a pink house and me having to save my sister? And she would like help me decipher it, basically. And she also does show up in my dreams from time to time. And it's usually, to me, it just means that I need to check on her or like see how she's doing. Because she does have dementia and she's not as just like aware as she used to be. So I do like to take that as a clue to just say hey.
Right. So your current spirituality, your spiritual journey or all that kind of stuff was informed a lot by your granny. I know that you also had a pretty strict upbringing as well in terms of like spiritual practices and stuff.
Yeah.
That shifted, or has that changed, or how did that morph, or what was that experience like?
So I would say that my experience growing up was, yeah, like you said, strict. I was raised Hebrew Israelite, which is a form of Judaism that is practiced in the Black American community. And in my experience, my family was like very isolated from community. And we were like also one of very few Black families in my neighborhood or at any of the schools I went to. So and all the schools I went to were Catholic schools. I don't know why my parents did that.
That's ironic.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm just going to get it from all sides. Just all the guilt.
Right.
Thank you. Yeah, so I didn't really know what to do with all of that information. And very early on, I started questioning um, God and questioning if what I was being taught was what I believed. And I also took on a lot of the like shame and guilt and fear too that was being unleashed on me. And I think that's why I really took to having the community that we built in the house that we lived in, and having just people who like shared a mindset, who love each other and have, just like these very uplifting conversations and parties.
And
Uh, and because I didn't have that growing up, I didn't have the experience of going to a religious or like spiritual place or being around people who were like uplifting in any sort of way.
right. So that's kind of, I'm assuming that's kind of where you get Fluid Journey from, because you've had all these different experiences.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had all these different experiences. I also, it clicked for me because, um, yes, like the experiences I'm having in life and like how I think about um, my identities and how they've changed or transformed or morphed. And also, my granny used to sign off her letters. We would write letters back and forth all the time, and she would sign them off "Traveler on a Journey." And that just always like kind of stuck with me.
Good.
No
Oh
worries.
Lord, this is why Center of the Sun exists, because the amount of real estate that everything else takes up in your mind is, it's actually criminal how this world is built. Because I feel like, and the reason I'm a triple fire sign, so my journey is always fluid. I've been fluid. I don't have nothing but fluids. But I just like have a lot going on, and but it's just my personality, and sometimes it gets on my nerves because what I want to do I can't do because my mind is away. But anyway, but it doesn't make any sense why I'm live on the internet, so I'm gonna hush. But so thank you so much for sharing that. And honestly, I forget that because I'm a triple fire sign, this is my like shit. So even if it's like a crazy mess, like I still love it and I still want to do it, because now I have a creative partner now. Yes, hey. But so let's, before we get into the like meat and potatoes and all that, no, not meat because you're vegetarian. Before we get into the kale and the kombucha, let's finish talking about Fluid Journey. Can we just kind of just talk about your mission and your vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So everything is kind of in process right now because I am starting and am open to all of the paths in front of me. Um, so my idea behind Fluid Journey is to offer these relaxation treatments through energy healing or Reiki, and to connect people to themselves and their healing, as well as a connection to a community. It has been hard for me personally to find healers who look like me, who identify in the ways that I do, and me putting myself out there. I hope that I can offer that to someone else. Um, and and I live in Ohio, and this is a place where that is like very saturated with white women healers, and that can be okay if you are finding support, but that's not like who everyone wants to see necessarily for their spiritual healing, especially if you're doing like trauma work, ancestral healing, and especially if you are in the African diaspora or you are descended from enslaved peoples or something like that. So that's what I'm hoping to do with Fluid Journey, what I have been doing with Fluid Journey, and eventually, when I'm done with herbalism school, when I'm done with my apprenticeship, I will offer herbal consultations to clients as well.
Yeah, because I need some of that white oak bark. Yeah. Well, I think that's great. I've experienced your healing journeyness, and it's powerful. It's very interesting. It's very interesting, all of this, because I was raised pretty strict too, and I didn't know nothing about this. It's the election season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm like, we can't delay elections, like next Tuesday, isn't it?
It's next Tuesday. It's coming up.
And I know I'm stressed out. How have you been feeling with all of it?
I feel stressed out for sure. I feel like very kind of like just like excited energy about the election. Like, I don't know what's going to happen necessarily. I just, want people to feel like they can move through this time without, like perishing.
Thank you, because I feel very close to perishing. Do you see my lopsided shoulder? I'm like, oh my God, everything is just like weighing down. But it's a lot. And just like I was just saying earlier, we are being pulled in like 80 million places, our attention in any way, and our bodies too, because we got to go vote. We got to go to the grocery store. We got to go buy toilet paper because it's a pandemic. But you focus a lot on, I know I've pulled a lot of journals and a lot of data about how meditation and how about being centered and balanced, because that's another thing, is like trying to figure out who's good and who's bad and what's up and what's down. Let's focus on the election. So we have Donald Trump, Joe Biden. One is perceived as good, the other is perceived as bad, depending on who you're voting for. So it doesn't matter which side you're on. One's good and one's bad. First of all, do you believe in good and bad?
That's really interesting you bring that up, because I feel like it's it's kind of like a trap, like saying that something is like good or bad. Like I say both of those things all the time, but to me, I think that there's always like more to explore about something. And when harm is happening, like obviously I don't like that. And I think it's important to understand like why it's happening, where it comes from, and not contextualizing it only in, for example, like the last 4 years. Like Trump has done a lot of terrible things in the last 4 years, and before that too. I'm not caping for Trump whatsoever. Terrible human. But I don't think that the last 4 years are the only things that have created the conditions that we're in right now.
Amen. Yes. Yeah. And I think balance, like your whole thing is called Fluid Journey. It's like, it's all a balancing act because it's so nuanced. Everything is so nuanced. Like, and I saw something on YouTube or whatever it is, and it was like, so say if there was no good and bad and everything was perfect, there is no death. It's like everything is just like one no, and it's like the nature of our world is change. The nature of our reality is change. And for every one thing that's alive, there's one thing that die. You know, there's always like this balancing act. And I think it's all about balance. How do you so you self-care, you do a lot of self-care, you're an energy healer. Even the whole episode today, you were like, I got to get my energy together. Like, like you're very intentional about it. How do you find balance personally?
Personally, some ways that I find balance are one resource that I found over the summer is called Chorus Meditation. And I really love them in their classes because they really make sure that if you're a person who doesn't like necessarily connect with meditation, they do all guided breath work, and all of the classes are set to songs that you might recognize. They're usually like popular songs.
If you like it, then you should have put a ring on it. Hey! Yeah.
So I love the elevation that I get from popular music, and just like, you know, the rush of the hormones and everything in my brain. It's like, yeah. So you double those effects with the breath work.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's a great feeling. So I've been doing course meditation about 2 times a week, and my my friend Whitney had introduced me to chorus, so that's one that has been keeping me going the last few months.
So when you say chorus, you mean literally the chorus of a song?
Yeah, CHORUS chorus. Yeah.
I thought it was something like spiritual chords or something. I didn't know what chorus meditate, what you were saying when you said chorus meditation. That's interesting.
Yeah, they're based in California, I think, San Francisco, perhaps, LA. And so all of their times are in PST, so that means they're all pushed back like pretty late in the day over here on the East Coast. But yeah, I love the instructors, especially Ellie. She's my fave.
So let's continue on, because I think this is very interesting. Do you have any suggestions? So you said that you are an aspiring herbalist.
Yes, so I'm an apprentice right now with
Leonardo DiCaprio. No, not DiCaprio. Da Vinci. Because Leonardo da Vinci was an apprentice at some point. Anyway, you're an herbal apprentice.
Yes, I'm an herbal apprentice with Natural Choices Botanica. They have a apprenticeship program there that's all remote. Thankfully, I started in April, so I wouldn't have been able to go in person anyway. But so I'm doing that program. And last year, 2019, I completed a program. It was an immersion, like an introduction to herbalism with Stone Fruit Community Herbalists in Pittsburgh. So I was going to Pittsburgh once a month for that program.
Do you suggest any herbs? So it's the election season, it's getting cold, it's flu season. Do you suggest any herbs?
Okay, so some herbs that I like to work with in the wintertime are usually like made into a tonic. And Rosemary Gladstar is an American herbalist, and she opened the California School for Herbal Studies, and she put together and I guess like made famous this recipe for fire cider, which is a tonic for immunity. And she even though it's like something that is a folk tonic that's been in herbal traditions in America for a long time, yeah, she made it popular. So Rosemary Gladstar, she created this recipe, and I really love it because it's all made from ingredients that you can find in a grocery store or most grocery stores. And this is what you would do to make it. So you get some apple cider vinegar, which you can find in the baking aisle usually, some horseradish, which is a root, ginger, which is also a root. And you would, the ginger would be for inflammation, and the horseradish would be for respiratory health. put some garlic in there, just like cloves of garlic, onions, which are antimicrobial, and then if you are cool with spicy things, cool with hot things, this would be the fire part. Adding some cayenne, or you like powdered cayenne, or you can get just peppers, like hot peppers, jalapenos, serranos. That's what I grew this year in my garden. And you basically like chop everything up and then put it in the apple cider vinegar and let it sit for 4 to 6 weeks. And I like to add cinnamon to mine. You can add like powdered turmeric or rosemary or echinacea or any other herbs that are supportive for immunity into the fire cider. And I actually got a really good. I sent some to my mom, and she said that fire cider is the shit. She took some yesterday and woke up and her nose and chest were clear as a bell. It's a hit. Keep it coming. So
what?
So I thought that was her, and I've been sharing this batch of fire cider that just with like friends and family and stuff for the winter, because this winter especially is going to be a tough one with coronavirus out here, and it's going to be a good idea to keep up your immunity throughout the fall and winter and early spring.
Oh my gosh. So say that again. What was it called?
It's called fire cider.
Fire cider. Is it a recipe?
Yeah, there's a recipe on sorry.
That's okay.
Herbalacha.com.
Well, that's why you want to sign up for the newsletter for, my blog, devon.org. That's where all the stuff is. In terms of creativity and socializing, because it's a pandemic still, so it's an election, it's a pandemic, all that kind of stuff. How are you creatively socializing during all of this winter resurgence of the Rona?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Some of the ways that I've been socializing over the last couple of months that I'm about to start reemploying are a virtual dance party. My friend had a birthday in May, and another friend of ours sent a message to a group saying, like, hey, can everyone send in 1 to 3 songs that remind you of this other friend? And so we all sent in songs, and then he created this playlist that was like curated and really beautiful. We just like hung out on Zoom and danced together for 2 hours. It was great. We sang
That's precious.
Yeah.
Aw. I've never had I've been to like a silent disco.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't ever been to a virtual dance party. Oh my God.
Yeah. That's a good one. Also, if you're into dance parties and want to do like a dance party virtually and have it, you don't have to curate it. There's this group called Club Quarantine, and they have, I don't know if they're doing it every day now, but during the spring they were having a dance party every day.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways to cope, but I never really thought about dancing. My goodness gracious.
Yeah, movement has been super supportive for me. I'm realizing that movement, there's just like something that in my body that unlocks, like I have more access to feelings and the will to do things if I move my body, and dancing's one of those.
Well, that's where your energy, I mean, every cell in the human body has some sort of like voltage or charge in it. So it makes sense that when you move, you kind of like, what is it, like piezo electricity? There's different forms of electricity that are just created by moving things, and you create energy. Tesla all these scientists, they figure out all of this stuff. You mentioned something to me about like building a holiday bubble. What does that mean?
Yeah, I read this article that the Baylor College of Medicine put out called "Build Your Own Holiday Bubble," and
That sounds very cute.
yeah, it sounds very cute. And as I was reading the article, it was like pretty intense too. They are just like putting together this whole strategy for groups if they want to get together, and it starts with assessing your risk tolerance and seeing how much risk you're willing to put on for COVID-19. And then the second part that really stood out to me was everybody has to commit to doing all the steps. And essentially the checklist involves, like getting your flu shot and um, quarantining, isolating yourself from other people, like always using a mask, physically distancing for a period of time up until when you see each other, and also getting tested for COVID, um, so that you can gather. But I know not everyone has access to that because maybe they live with a lot of people, or it's hard to get everybody to agree or not, or even like to get tested, or maybe
Right.
like have family that doesn't even believe that COVID is a thing. So there are, yeah, different levels of access for this.
Tell them to come visit my clinic. Very real. Oh Lord goodness gracious. It's so crazy. But well, I mean, I think it kind of just like boils down to knowing who you are internally. We were talking about balance and kind of figuring out like how do you know like when something is when to trust yourself, or when to change something. And I think yeah, included with the holiday bubble is just kind of knowing who you are and letting your feelings and your emotions come out of you as you see fit. But you talk about intuition, and I feel like that's just your intuition. I guess, like, can you talk about, do you like, how did you figure out that your intuition was talking to you? Did you feel it as a kid?
Yeah, I definitely felt like I was taking in information from spaces around me, from people. I was a really quiet kid, so that just meant, well, I guess to me anyway, it felt like I was really observant and always knew what was happening, and I had to like know what was happening in order to stay safe.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, right. I mean, and I really think, because it's a survival mechanism. Um, did your intuition, when did you start identifying with intuition? When
Mm,
did you first realize that you were talking, that it was like a higher self? Did
very-
you ever realize, or do you believe that it is? I might be making an assumption right now.
yeah, I do. I believe that. I believe that like my head and my heart and my gut are connected, and if I feel like something is off in my stomach, like it probably is, like, logically as well. um I Yeah, I don't really know exactly when I fully integrated that belief into my life, but I know that um that is true for me now, for sure.
Right. And that's part of the fluid thing. Like, sometimes you don't know there's a water leak until it's the leak. Like,
Yeah,
you don't know something's permeated you until you're soaked.
right.
So it makes sense. It definitely makes sense. I just remember as a kid being in church and hating it, in the back of my mind being like, Devon, this is not it. And me being like, I know, kind of like being like, this is crazy. But growing up and still being like, nah, I was serious. When I had those feelings about spirituality and stuff like that. But I describe it as like kind of like just like a brain. I think it's just you talking to yourself. your different lobes of your brain talking to different parts of the brain, and that we're so advanced as beings that we just can't really we don't know it's us. How would you describe intuition?
I would describe it as an inner knowing, and it's something that a lot of people consider to be a compass, and it's guiding to the decisions that I make. And there's a whole theory about intuitive eating, and I think that intuition can guide your intuition, your thought process, your subconscious thought process can influence so many things in your life. And it can be scary, especially if your intuition is telling you something that you don't want to hear. And
Right.
yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I personally did ignore it for such a long time, and also wasn't sure, should I trust myself? Is this what I should be doing? Especially if it's something that is so far from what I was taught or what I believed before.
Right. When was the last time you used your intuition to make a decision, like a big one?
Well, I would definitely say when I moved to Columbus, when I made that choice, I knew it was the right one. And when it clicked for me, because it had come up as an opportunity a couple times before, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm not ready. Why would I move to Columbus? We only have one friend here. Um, yeah, all of those feelings. I had always hoped to move to a bigger city or something from Cleveland. And then one day I just thought about it more. I slept on it completely, and I was like, hey, maybe this should be a thing.
Come on, somebody. Come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, it's got good energy for some reason. And yeah, it's been a great experience, a great move, other than, of course, not being able to get to know the city very well because of COVID. But my younger sister is living with us, and she's on a spiritual path as well. And it's been great to connect with her and kind of heal some of our family things together. I have a backyard. It's
Yeah.
yes.
You have a nice ass basement too. I was like, damn. Talk about virtual dance party. I'm like, we need to have a real one. Hey. That's But so in thinking about the election, because we talked about earlier, good and bad, how do you figure out what's good and bad, in yourself? How would you suggest that people use their intuition to do something like vote?
My intuition to vote. So I'm kind of using my vote this year, for the obvious physical world reasons, to hopefully more people less people are experiencing harm in the world, and also using as putting energy in that direction, kind of casting those words in that direction.
Right.
Yeah.
I wrote that down somewhere. Instead of saying cast a spell, I was like, put your direct your something in that way, it's very interesting because it's almost like magic.
Yeah.
And I know that personally for me, when I'm thinking about intuition or the election, it's less about the right here and right now. I kind of had a sense that Donald Trump was coming when they elected Barack Obama when we were in college.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is a kind of an odd thing to happen, for America to have a black president, and then we had him twice. And I was like, the next one, I always knew the one after him would be the literal worst. And I don't even know if I've ever expressed this to you ever. But I remember just having those thoughts, but my intuition, my inner self knowing, I've always known that it wasn't always going to be Donald Trump, but I knew it would be the worst president, the opposite of what we thought what a president should be because white folks were so mad. They're still mad about Barack Obama. Like, he was just on TV the other day and they were like, you know, Trump rushed to Omaha, Nebraska to have a campaign rally to take Obama off TV, and then he left all the people sitting in the cold. Old people having seizures and shit. Have you seen that on the news?
I have seen that. Yeah, that's horrible.
And that's only because he's rushing around trying to take up airtime from Barack Obama and Joe Biden. But I think that we also have to remember, like, our thoughts to, like, not just like our interpretation of what's going on, but also there's like an informed voice. Do you have an informed voice?
Can you say more about what that means to you?
Yeah. So it's like a little bit more than your higher self. So you know how, like, okay. Season 1, Center of the Sun. Let me give you a little context. Season 1, Center of the Sun. We talked about, have you went back and into the archive, into the vault?
Yeah, I've listened to like the first 3 episodes.
And I talk about David. Have you heard of me talk about David Eagleman?
Yes.
And possibilitarianism, or whatever it is. Yeah. So that's just a novel concept. It's not even a real concept, but the David Eagleman is a neuroscientist. And basically what he believes is that instead of being like, this is the truth, this is not, this is up, this is down, this is right, this is wrong, he says that actually everything should be on the table until we have enough evidence to evaluate it, within its full context. So God, all of it, we need to stop. We can't be claiming truth until we're 100% sure.
Okay.
And I'm a researcher, so I kind of believe in the scientific process a little bit. So I believe that we should be using some sort of framework. And if we don't have anything else other than the scientific process, we need to like use it. But it's less about knowing, it's less about like having every little data point. But when I talked about possibilitarianism, what I also want to iterate is that there are aspects of our reality that fall outside of the scientific process. So ancient people, not even really ancient people, even your people, even the people that practice Reiki or energy healing, even if we just take energy healing, okay, so we're talking about the informed voice, and when we connect probes and stuff to people's bodies and measure the energy off their body when they experience energy healing, because there's real empirical evidence of it. Mm-hmm. We witness electricity, like real electricity, like plugs and shit. We experience that, but then there's also other stuff going on in our bodies that are not related to the physical realm right now.
Right.
And that's why the government has validated energy healing, because they know there's something else going on, or they probably know the actual truth. But that's the whole idea of the esoteric energy body. So esoteric just means unknown or whatever. But there are aspects of our self that fall outside of reality. And that's where we get the higher self and God and all that kind of stuff from.
Yeah.
So the informed voice is a process on development. So have you heard of the term alchemy?
Yeah.
So you're a herbalist and stuff like that. So in alchemy, there's the physical alchemy of like turning lead into gold or whatever the hell they were doing. But alchemy really is about us, and it's the alchemy of the soul. Mm-hmm. And just like we can turn one substance that's lead or lead into gold, or I forget what the cliche thing about alchemy is, but if you think about it yourself, renewing yourself, or kind of like recognizing that our reality is fractal in nature, and that like we have like it's like everything is a microcosm of something else. And when we practice chemistry, when we combine chemicals, we know that like, and there's certain patterns and stuff that go together. and that at the end of that process, you have something new. So when you kind of use that same, so there's an alchemical process where they're literally breaking down substances and making new substances. When you think about that in terms of our bodies, the alchemy of the soul, like the final result of your soul's alchemy is like connecting with the final whatever, the creator or whatever it is, but being connected to the universe itself, and then you knowing everything or whatever you need to know. So for instance, like geniuses, where did Albert Einstein get his shit from? You know, where do these people get their shit from?
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't just wake up. I mean, everyone can just wake up smart, but it's like they came up with like new shit, and not just like white people, Europeans. Like there are hundreds of, you know, inventions and thousands of inventions that African Americans have come up with to push our society forward.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they never were allowed to read and write. Like where did they get all that shit from? So that's the informed voice, that like that knowing, like that inner knowing. But like when you get to a place of like balance, it just feels like someone's talking to you almost.
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah.
That was a story. That was a whole thing. Wow.
I got there. Yeah, I definitely have an informed voice and feel like I'm being communicated with, whether that's through dreams. Like I'm really big on dreams myself. Maybe I have a dream, and actually I had a dream last night and Rihanna was in it. I was helping her pick out a tea, and I was like really shy about talking with her. But besides that, I I feel like in a lot of the dreams I have, maybe I'll get shown like how to do something. Like I'll get shown how to cleanse a room or how to like harvest a plant correctly. Or I'll even have while I'm awake in the daytime, I'll have like a mini vision about something. Like, oh, maybe I should go out to the front door and check the mail today, and then I'll find a gift from a friend or something like that. So it's maybe not as big as like a theory or something that's downloading, but I definitely feel connected in that way.
And the reason why I feel so strongly about it is because, you know, I have a lot of like interesting experiences in my life, but at the end of the day, it's almost like it doesn't matter what I do. It's just like I still have that like even though like it just feels like when you're on your purpose, like when you're living your purpose, and it doesn't matter how fucked up you want to be, everything still aligns back together. That's really why I feel so strongly about it, because it's like I guess it's like, damn, I guess you're supposed to like, I guess the universe is looking out for you or something, because it's just like even when I'm not even paying attention, it's, you know, I kind of have what I need to get me through and to survive.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really powerful. And that's what you need when it's the election season.
Definitely.
Because being informed is very, very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very important.
Something that just came to me about like living in a new place and not really knowing like who's around me necessarily. And my neighborhood seems to be like definitely a very left place, but there are plenty of people with with just like symbols that don't make me feel safe here. And I feel like I've been leaning into my intuition a lot around that. And just like when I walk my dog a couple times a day, like where am I? Do I have my phone? Like, am I protected? Am I safe? And just having that awareness.
Right. And that's the informed voice. And that's the thing that's crazy about all of this, is that I truly believe there are some people that just have already been here and everybody else is catching up. And that's my theory about like yoga and like all that kind of stuff. I really believe some people do need to be doing all that, being vegan and like going in the mountains and like being isolated, but there's some people that were just born like this. Do you feel like you were just born like that, or do you have to work on it?
I have to work on it. I do feel like I have a head start with, like my bloodline and like how I was introduced to spirituality. Like I don't necessarily agree with all of the things that my family professes, but I do feel like I kind of got what they were doing. I
Right.
understand a little bit. But I do have to work at it for sure. And when I work at it, I see myself like being successful and like being rewarded for that work almost. Yeah.
Come
So
on, manifestation. And that's the magic right there, really, honestly. That's magic.
mhm,
Um, and that's great. I just remember being a kid because I've always been like, I'm like, I don't know, am I schizophrenic or something? I don't know. I'm like, I've always been like having like real visual inside head stuff. And now fast forward to being 32, I'm like, damn, I guess this is what everybody meditates and breathes heavy for,
mhm,
is to do all this. Cause it's like I can't, I'm even a lightweight, I'm like, I like partying and stuff like that, but I'm always like passing out and like, like I can't really hang. And
mhm,
it's just like, and it's a part of that is like even when I try my best to like shift my brain away, it just I always feel better just being myself. So yeah, so it's very important to know yourself, especially during all this election season, because Donald Trump doesn't know himself. That's why he's clicking down. Even if he wins, even if he wins, it's still not going to be like easy peasy. Like he's still not going to sleep good at night. He's still not going to live to 100 or none of that kind of stuff. He's still going to have a shitty ass life. He's still going to owe $500 million to somebody. But anyway, yeah. But I don't want to dwell. I don't want to talk about that ugly ass man. Do you
yeah.
have any ending? Do you have any thoughts as we end? I got to go send this coronavirus test to the lab. I'd rather walk it myself. Do you have any last thoughts?
Yeah, so when this episode is aired or released or however you call
Sunday, center
it.
of the Sunday. Hey! I'm gonna try to stay on schedule. My very best.
Okay, yeah, we'll be in the midst of a full moon, a blue moon, and yeah, so just like try to ground your energy and if you work with spirits, if you celebrate Halloween, if you do any of that stuff, like it's a great time to tap into it.
Right now, you say ground. What do you mean ground?
Ground. I mean to center your energy. Maybe you go outside and put your feet on the dirt, or you sit next to a tree, or you visualize yourself just feeling like sturdy and powerful and stable in yourself.
Oof. Yeah. Literally the ground.
Literally,
Literally take your ass outside.
yeah.